Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another official podcast of the Culmination of Randomness. We are your hosts, Aeon Wraith.
And I'm Red Shadow. Thank you for joining us on this Sunday morning as Wraith and I discuss whatever happens to cross our minds.
In today's episode of the Culmination podcast, Shadow and I are going to try and discuss game franchises that pretty much always hit the mark, and some that, they really should, but they don't. And so we're going to try to discuss that wherever that conversation might lead us. So, I guess I will go ahead and start this time well, I say I'll start. Really, it's a we start. A game franchise that we both truly love, and pretty much every game is always fun. Is the Zelda franchise for us? Um, Now you had been saying a little bit before stream about some of your reasons why that franchise was so good. I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and reiterate.
Yeah, I'm okay with saying so one of the reasons why I like the Zelda franchise is, for one, it's been around for a long time for me. I remember watching my mom play the very first, like, the Legend of Zelda game on NES. And back then, I thought it was cool, and I wanted to be able to play it, but back then I was so young that it just didn't. I couldn't. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
could not. Like, it was just so difficult. And the puzzles in the game, like, there was no hints, or I mean, there were a few like vague hints, but there wasn't really any hints to like help you out and to like push you in the right direction.
Right.
you know Plus, you could only see one panel at a time, and it would scroll over, and but it was just so mesmerizing, the fact that it had the puzzles and the fighting, and the you had to get new items, and it kind of really hit home for me as a game that I loved. But it wasn't until I got The Legend of Zelda Seasons and Ages for Game Boy Color that my kind of love for Zelda really blossomed, and
Mm.
it's stuck with me ever since. I didn't have a Nintendo 64. I didn't play the Zelda games on Nintendo 64 until I had a GameCube.
Okay.
But I loved Seasons and Ages, like just the mechanics in between the games. And what was cool about Seasons and Ages, I know that you said, Aeon, right, that it didn't, um, you never played the Game Boy, like the Game Boy Zelda games.
Yeah, I've never played any of the handheld Zeldas.
But the thing about Seasons and Ages was, if you if you could beat Seasons or you could beat Ages, it gave you like this code, and you could use that code to on the other game to start a, like, it was like a kind of like a master quest type of deal,
Hmm.
but it was a little bit different. And I never could. So I beat Ages first, and so I had on Seasons. I had a Seasons game that I made with that code, and I could never beat that version of the game
Hmm.
because it was just a little bit different. But like the kind of the puzzles in that game were just so amazing, and it kind of like blossomed my love for the franchise. And when the GameCube, I remember, I don't remember what year it was, but I remember it was Christmas time, and I had saved up all of my birthday money because my birthday is in December, and so normally I can't get a big item for my birthday and Christmas because they're too close together. So
Hmm.
my parents usually got me something small for my birthday, something small for Christmas. So for my birthday, I only asked for money. I was like, please give me money. I was like, because to I want to buy a GameCube for Christmas. So I'm like, if I take all of my gifts as money on my birthday, and I take all of my gifts at Christmas as money, I should have enough money to buy a GameCube. And I think when GameCubes came out, they were only like $100, or like maybe 200.
200,
But
I think. Yeah.
they weren't like super expensive, like not compared to today's consoles.
Right.
And I remember I saved up all the money, and I was telling my mom that I really really wanted to go get the GameCube with the Legend of Zelda like collector's edition in the
Right.
box. And I did not realize how popular Zelda was to other people
Hmm.
until that year.
Right.
Because we went to the store and they were already completely sold out. And I just remember being devastated that I couldn't get it. Like I couldn't get this thing that I wanted so bad. And so like we literally drove around from store to store, and my grandfather actually ended up finding it and buying it for me, and I ended up paying him back
Hmm.
for it, because I was like they have it in stock here. And I called him because I was calling stores and like trying to like figure out who had it. My grandfather went and bought it for me, and he got it, and I still have it to this day. I still have it. That was one of my favorite little like collector's editions, because it came with the original Zelda,
Right.
the Link's Adventure number 2, the 2D side scroller
Hmm.
Zelda, and it also came with Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and it even came with a demo for Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
Yeah.
Um, I've talked about Zelda a lot. I love the franchise. Let me kick it over to you so that you can talk about it a little bit before I talk more about it.
Right. So, like I said, I've never really played the the handhelds or the 2D Zeldas. Um, I have them. I've just never gotten around to playing them. My first Zelda was Ocarina of Time on the N64, and it was one of those games that it was one of the first actual video games that I sat down and played. Not just like I'd played Mario and stuff like that, where I'd play a video game just for a second here or there, but it was one of the first ones where I sat down and played it all the way through to the end. Um, and I still remember just being captivated by that boss fight at the end of Ocarina of Time, because it was the first time I had seen a game like that where the enemy shoots something at you and you knock it back with your sword. That was just so cool to me. And so I did try Majora's Mask when it initially came out, but I would say it was a bit too the themes were too dark for me, so I wasn't as appreciative of it as I am now.
Hmm.
Um, but I really, really enjoy Wind Waker. Like Wind Waker is one of those games that I play and just have a good time. Where I don't know if it's just the sound design or the soundtrack or just the aesthetic, but I really enjoy Wind Waker, and so I have that on both. I bought the Wii U almost exclusively for the Wind Waker HD remake.
See, I love playing. Excuse me. I love playing Wind Waker. It's one of my favorite Zelda games. I really really like the art style that they
Hmm.
went with that game. I, it's not the best art style, as far as like the Zelda franchises,
Right.
like the bulk of it. But I just really like that kind of like chibi esque, art style, and the
Yeah.
gameplay was really great as well. Like the crawling through stuff.
Yeah.
That's one of the Zelda games I haven't beaten.
Mm.
Um, because I never personally owned a Wii or a Wii U. So anytime I would play that game, it was either and I never had it on the GameCube. So I think it was on the GameCube, right?
Yeah. GameCube, and then the Wii U was the remaster. Or
See, I never owned it on the GameCube, and so the only place I've ever really played it is either at friends' houses or like at my parents' house, because my stepbrother had had it on his Wii. But I've never been able to beat it. I think I've gotten so far as the first dungeon.
oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no, I did do a lot of ocean exploring though.
Yeah. I will. Oh, I'll say like I'll let you borrow it sometime. My both my Wii U and the game. Uh, but what I'll say is, so the HD remaster is streamlined, so that there's a
Hmm.
lot less what's what I'm looking for, random searching.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Uh, and so yeah, I'll let you wear that time. It looks fantastic. It still plays really fun.
So
Um,
I kind of curious, if the Switch becomes a lasting Nintendo staple, getting a little off topic for a
mhm,
second, but if the Nintendo Switch becomes the staple of Nintendo and they kind of merge their consoles and their handhelds together and bring it into like a culmination of sorts, right?
right.
So they have their handhelds and they have their consoles, they merge together into one line. Do you think that it would be possible for them to, in the long term, like, because they're even talking, the Switch has been, out for a while now, and I know that there's talks for a Switch Pro or a Switch, like 2 or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
like a revamped version of the Switch, but a newer generation. And like, I know that you can already get like the NES emulator and the Super NES emulators on the Switch.
Right.
Like, I'm curious as to that, like, they just made or they're making, it's supposed to come out in a couple of months, Skyward Sword for the Nintendo Switch, and it's supposed to take into consideration the Joy Cons when you swing the sword,
Mhm.
like it did with the Wii controller back, on the previous version of it. And it almost makes me wonder if they might, you know maybe in the future they would give the possibility of being able to own all of the Zelda franchise on the Switch. Because me personally, I would pay soul, like I would rebuy that game.
Yeah. Well, 'cause like, okay, so my brothers and I had talked about this topic right when Mario All Stars came out. Because like, if they did that with Mario, we don't really see a reason why they couldn't do it with Zelda.
Hmm.
Um, because I know, I don't know if you were able to get the Mario All Stars before they stopped selling them.
I'm not really a big fan of the Mario franchise.
Well, so like Mario All Stars, well, they had two. They had the regular All Stars and then 3D All Stars. And 3D All Stars had you know, it had Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. And
Hmm.
so we had started talking about what if they do the same for the Zelda franchise, because that would be a very big money maker for them. Like, many people, like you said it yourself, but like many people I talk to that love the Zelda franchise, they don't even necessarily need an HD remaster. They just want to
Hmm.
play the game on a current system.
Right.
And so they could very easily, just sell a bundle, where it's like, okay, well, here's the games on the Switch, and so many people would buy that.
Right. And especially with them discontinuing the 3DS, like, you could no longer get new 3DSs, especially not at normal price, which I
Hmm.
found out this morning. But like there are a ton of games, that they remade for the 3DS, and like now they're unplayable. Like,
Hmm.
you can't play them anymore. And I understand that the implementation of the 3DS and the two screens and having, some information on the top and some information on the bottom was a kind of a workaround. Um, because in the original N64 versions of like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, it was just one screen.
Right.
There was no split screen. So why couldn't you take the original and just, instead of instead of taking the 3DS and moving it to the Switch, just take the original
Hmm.
and move it to the Switch? Because I know for a fact, I haven't bought them, but you can actually buy and download. I think you can buy and download Seasons and Ages
Yeah.
from the Nintendo eShop,
Well,
and
because like
all they
that's yeah,
are is like a Game Boy. They're literally just the Game Boy cartridge game put on the Switch.
yeah.
Like, and I'm okay with that. I don't own them, but I've thought about buying them a lot. And the only reason I haven't is because I've just been such I've just been so hardcore into PC, so
Hmm.
hardcore into PC, but
Right.
here lately, I've just really wanted to play with a controller.
Hmm.
Because like I think one of the things, and right after we discuss this, we can get back into our list. But one of the things that I've found about video games is it's not that I'm competitive. It's that I think that I'm taking video games too seriously. Like
Oh, okay.
what,
Hmm.
when I'm looking for a game to play, I'm looking for something that's going to be fun, engaging, something that I'm going to enjoy, and something that I want to play. But like I'm trying to go back to the roots, right? Back to my roots in video gaming. I was thinking last week, I was like, I used to have so much fun playing video games, but I don't anymore. I don't have fun playing video games, and I'm like, why don't I have fun? And I got to thinking about it, and like all the fun I used to have playing video games was like the exploration and
Hmm.
something new and the this and the that. And to be honest, like the big games on PC these days, most people are playing Call of Duty, they're playing like League of Legends, they're playing Fortnite, they're
Hmm.
playing all these online multiplayer games. And I was
Right.
just thinking to myself, that's the problem. I need to go back to like single player, very big open world games. I wasted so much time in like Skyrim,
Yeah.
you know? And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with playing a single player game. You don't always have to play with other people. Um, One of the single player games that I love, bringing it back to the list, tying it back into the list, it's the second one on my amazing franchises. We could talk about Zelda all day long,
Hmm.
but we'll move on. We might make a separate stream for just Zelda in the future. Um, but one of the things another franchise that I love that's a single player franchise, even though it's short, it is on PC, is Subnautica.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the Subnautica. They're on their second game. It's still in early access, but it's getting close to the end of early access stage, and I'm pretty sure that they'll release the full game sometime within the next 6 months to a year. Um, they've come a long way since the beta of the second one, Subnautica Below Zero. But I just love not only the gameplay and the kind of like the aesthetic, because it's very visually pleasing and it's very
Hmm.
like graphical. As far as like the water looks amazing. The being able to swim underwater and the underwater, fauna and flora is just awesome. Um, and then the story that went into the
Hmm.
first one is really good. And then that just carried straight over into Subnautica Below Zero, and I'm kind of curious as to what else they have to offer, because the way that they do the story in the first one and the way they do the story in the second one, I personally wouldn't mind having a third one. I want to find out more about this planet. Like, they've
Right.
created a world of mystery, a world of questions,
Well,
you
'cause like,
know?
and I'm not sure whether it's just going to be only that one planet, right? Or if like maybe you'll go
Right,
to another planet that the ancient race had been on,
right.
because that was definitely like the playing the first one because I haven't played any of the second because I was waiting for it to come out. Um,
Hmm.
Playing the first one, the first time that you step into like one of the alien strongholds or whatever you want to call them,
Hmm.
and see the technology down there, like what is going on?
Right.
Because you're like you crash landed your ship and then you're in a very like you're just in the ocean and then the first time you happen upon that and it's just like whoa.
I remember the first time I actually found the cannon thing on the
Yeah.
first one, and I was just like, "What is this thing? Like, what is this monstrosity?" It
Yeah.
was just so cool, And then, like, as you explore more, you find more and more of their technology and more of their bases, and it's just an invigorating like experience. It's kind of surreal. Like sometimes you kind of get immersive. And I believe I'm not 100% sure if the second one has it, but I'm pretty sure that the first one had a VR mode
It did.
where
I
where
haven't.
you could
Yeah, I
where you
haven't
could
played it,
go
but it
in a
does.
VR mode. I haven't either because I don't have VR,
Right.
but I would love to play that game in VR.
Hmm.
Like just being in your submarine and you're like cruising along, like just playing it normally, like I already get like jump scared when I
Yeah.
when my freaking submarine is just cruising along in the water. All of a sudden it hits something, and it's like
Yeah.
because the sound in that game
Yeah. Well, like
is very good as well.
that's one thing that franchise has done very well. Really, is atmosphere. Like you'll see
Hmm.
some games that they put a lot of stuff into either story or mechanics, and it's not that Subnautica hasn't, but it's definitely their focus was atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, because like the deeper you go into the ocean, the more unsettled you are. Like,
Right.
and that is so hard to pull off.
Especially when you're starting out, or like whenever you're cruising along and it's really dark, and you
Yeah.
can only see by the light of the headlights of your submarine, but
Hmm.
then you can hear the roaring of the sea monsters, and you're like, I don't know where it is, because I can't see it.
Yeah.
Like that constant, like it just it puts you on the edge, but it's not one of those games like a horror game where it pushes you over the edge into like not necessarily terror, but like I like to be on edge, but I don't like to be like overexerted. You know
Right.
what I mean? If that makes any sense.
You like to be teased.
Right, right. And I mean, every once in a while, they hit you with a little jump scare. You get smacked in the face with, a sea creature,
Yeah.
or you'll be driving along, and all of a sudden a fish will swim in front of you, and you just boing,
Yeah.
knock it off. But yeah, I love the franchise, and it's only been Subnautica's only been around for I think maybe 4 or 5 years, give or take,
Hmm.
or less. It could even be less. I'm not 100% sure, but I bought the first one in beta, played it all the way through beta, played the final release. Although I did wait about a year between the beta and the final release to play it because I
Mm.
had been playing it so much. I kind of had to like leave and come back with a fresh mind,
Yeah.
because I had to give up my save file when it came out, for
Right.
real,
Yeah.
because they implemented some changes and everything, and my old stuff just really didn't work because of the story changes and stuff.
Right.
Um, all right. Did you want to go on to your number two?
Yeah, sure. Now this might just be me. Um because like I hear some people aren't as into them, but I really like the Lego video games.
Oh yeah.
And like every one I play, I have a good time with. Like I've played almost all of them. The only one that I had a less than stellar time was Lego Lord of the Rings, and that was because I hit a glitch. Um, but I don't know, something about just the aesthetic and just the casual gameplay, where I could just sit down and relax. I've always enjoyed those, and of course, one of my favorite ones right now for that whole series is Lego Batman 3, which just was so fun to me. Like I played that a lot. I don't remember how many. I don't remember how many hours, but I played it a lot, and it's just like I like playing or taking like some of these franchises that I might already like Star Wars or Marvel and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that, or DC even, and doing it from this perspective because it's like it's not hard, but it's fun, and like each of the levels has replayability because you have to go back and get certain things once you have different characters and abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I really enjoy those games, and they don't necessarily like tickle my okay, let's get down to brass tacks, let's get my adrenaline pumping, but
Yeah.
they're always fun. And
Mm-hmm.
I've not had a Lego game that I've played that I haven't liked, because I even liked the Lego movie or the Lego game of the Lego movie. That game
I,
was pretty fun too.
Me personally, I've never really played any Lego games like a lot, or myself. Now my son has played some of the Lego Marvel games.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure exactly what he has. Three of them.
Yeah.
He has Lego.
There's
He
Lego
has
like
Marvel.
Avengers, Lego,
I think
Lego
he has
Marvel.
Marvel
Yeah.
Avengers, and he has two that are just like a Marvel conglomerate. They're
Yeah.
not like a specific
Yeah. They're
like
they're
set of people.
they're
But
unique
I've helped him.
stories. Yeah.
I've helped him through like some of the levels and stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, like some of the puzzles and stuff like that in that game are actually like a little challenging. They're
Hmm.
not like super complicated, so like it takes you like immense brain power, but
Yeah.
like some of them give you a little bit of pause. You're like, um, okay, I gotta build this over here. Okay, I gotta throw this. I gotta throw this shield over there.
Right.
I gotta do this. I gotta switch to this character and do this. And like some of the levels in the game that he was playing, I can't remember which one it is, but some of them like you can do different things depending on which characters you load into the level with, because you can load into the level with other characters,
Right.
other than like after you've beat it the first time,
Right.
you can log in with different characters, and I thought that was really really cool because that offers replayability, and it also offers a different take on that particular level.
Hmm.
So it gives you something a little different. But I can understand where you're coming from with those games from watching him play, and sometimes like I'll just sit there and watch him play, because it's kind of me spending time with him. Sometimes I'll just sit there and watch him play, and I'm just like, you know, like the story, I'm a pretty big Marvel fan, and like some of the story stuff and some of the things you learn in that, you're like, is that real? And you like
Hmm.
look it up. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's like
This is pretty like informative
I
because
think.
they base it off of
Mhm.
the source material. They base it off comics. They base it off movies. They base it off of everything, and everything that's in there. Now, I'm not saying everything that they say is canon, but a
Right.
lot of you can learn a lot of stuff from those games.
Because I think Lego Marvel Superheroes, not the one for the Avengers, but like the first Lego Marvel Superheroes, I think that was the game I learned about the existence of Squirrel Girl. I didn't even know she was a character.
And you're like, no, this ain't real. And you're like, Google it. Came out this comic, this date, this
Right.
time. Huh. All right.
And then
Yeah.
like I just like how like so the more recent Lego games have like an overworld, right? Where
Hmm.
like you go into specific stages, but you have an overworld you can run around in. And
Yeah. Yeah. I really that is pretty cool.
and not only that, but every character feels different to play as. Like even if you do get like similar characters,
Hmm.
so like if you get like let me think two characters that have at least like similar abilities.
Like Venom and is Venom DC or no? He's
He's
Marvel.
Marvel, yeah.
Like Venom.
Well,
I
cuz
was
like
saying Venom and Spider Man because
Venom's
they're
Venom's
they're
treated a little
similar.
yeah, he's Venom's treated a little bit differently in that he's like stronger than Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But like you have characters that have very similar abilities and they feel different to play just with like little nuances.
Hmm.
Uh, and one of my favorite things to do sometimes was like I would just go and I'd pick Iron Man or something and I would break the sound barrier and go straight up to the sky and then just fall. And it was just fun.
Yeah, I definitely need to check out some of the games in that franchise. I know that a lot of them are on Steam,
Hmm.
and so I may have to check out some of that franchise and play them for myself. Maybe
I
pick out two or three
Yeah,
and just kind of play with them.
I will say Lego games are easier and more fun to play with a controller.
Are they?
Yeah.
My
It,
thing is,
yeah.
it's like one of the things I think that a lot of people miss out on is like one of the things that the Lego game has going for it is its simplicity, right?
Hmm.
It's not super graphically intensive. It's like it's a simple design,
Right.
and I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people played Minecraft. Now, Minecraft is not on any of my lists because I don't really consider it like while it is a household name these days, like most people know what Minecraft is. I wouldn't really call it a franchise. It's not
No.
more than one game, really.
Right.
You got Minecraft, you got stories, you got tons of mods. But for the sake of argument, we did say that it needed to have at least two full-fledged games or more.
Mhm.
And I just don't think that Minecraft Dungeons counts as a full-fledged game next to Minecraft. It's like a totally different offshoot just based in the same world. But
Right.
it was simple, right? That's what I'm getting at. At the base, Minecraft was simple, and
Mhm.
that's why I think one of the reasons why a ton of people loved it was because of the simplicity.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'll definitely have to check out some of the other Lego games because, like, in fact, I almost bought some of them because there was a sale on Steam, and I almost bought some, and I was like, well, I'm really playing this other game right now, and I already have a ton of games, so let me
Right.
wait. Because I was debating on buying, like, because they had like three bundles. They had like one that was like the Star Wars bundle, and then
Mhm.
they had one that was like a Marvel bundle, and then they had like all the Lego games bundle, which was like $200 or $300, and I was like, I don't really want to buy just this one bundle if I could just buy the big one. And I was like, maybe I should wait.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah. So I guess I'll go into my third. And I don't really have a ton that I want to talk about. I'm gonna mention it and I'll talk a little bit about it. But like it's been a while since I've played it. I just have very fond memories.
Mhm.
And that's the God of War franchise for
Okay.
PlayStation. Um, I remember when I played God of War the first time. Like I remember I played it on PlayStation 2, and I didn't buy it when it first came out. I'm talking like I got this game in the $5 bin at Walmart.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like it like I was looking. I really wanted a game, and my parents told me I could get a game as long as it came out of like the $5-10 bin at Walmart. And I'm digging through this bin, I'm digging through this bin, and I see this game. It says God of War on it. I'm looking at it. It's got this muscular dude. He's got some swords. I'm like, man, so this looks like it could be a good game. I read the back of it talking about, mythology and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'll get it and I'll try it. So I got it, and I took it home, I put it in, I loaded it up, started playing around, and I'm like, this game is awesome.
Mhm.
And I played through the first one. I have to say that like I said, it's been a long time since I played them, but I remember the first one being extremely short. I remember playing through, doing the puzzles, doing the
Yeah.
challenges, getting the weapon up, doing all this stuff, leveling up the weapon, and then I remember I beat the game like that night. Like I beat it like within 24 hours I had beaten the game, and I was like, is there another one? And so like we went to the store, and I was looking around, and I found it. There was a God of War 2. And I was like, "Oh my, there's a God of War 2." But it wasn't $5. It wasn't in the $5 bin. It was in the case. And
Right.
so I don't remember how many chores I had to do to get that game, but somehow over like a week's time period, I in the eyes of my parents, I earned it, and they bought it for me. And I remember just playing that game and playing that game. And I believe in the second one, it gave you multiple weapons. Like so you could have,
Yes.
there
Yeah.
was like two or three, maybe four weapons that you could have. And like I would spend so much time like just leveling up my weapons, going through the mythology. I think I played that game a couple of different times. 'Cause I think if you played it through once, you unlocked harder difficulties.
Right. And then you got the tower.
See, because I don't think that was in the first one. I don't think you could unlock a new difficulty in the first one. It was just like there was like two difficulties, and you
Mhm.
just chose one. Um, and then of course, I was so excited when they announced God of War 3, and I think God of War 3 came out on the PlayStation 3, and I was just so excited for it, and I got it, and I played it and played it and played it until I beat that one too. And God of War 3 was the last one that I played. Now I believe that they've only had one game since God of War 3, and that was
Right.
the God of War with the Sun.
Yeah, the PS4 one.
And see, I haven't played it. I want to, and I have wanted to for a long time. But I don't play my PS4, and so like I need to I need to play it because I really love that franchise.
Yeah. I don't even have a PS4, so.
Um, but that's it for my my big three. I do have a couple of honorable mentions, but I'll wait until after you do your third.
All right, so my third franchise, and I'm combining two of them because they're kind of, in my opinion, the same franchise. Uh, Harvest Moon and Rune Factory. Now, there's a stipulation to this.
Mm-hmm.
The Harvest Moon franchise before Natsume split with their parent company. So if you go, I don't know if you've heard about the game Story of Seasons.
Only from you.
So Story of Seasons is essentially Harvest Moon under a different name, and that's
Mm-hmm.
because the Harvest Moon name is still owned by like the parent company.
Mm-hmm.
So before that split, though, the Harvest Moon games and then the Rune Factory games were always just really fun to me. Now they play differently because Harvest Moon is a life sim. A lot of people think it's just a farming sim, but it's more of a life sim. In that, like, you farm, but you also have to get to know everyone in the village and build up relationships and get to know everyone around you, which was always really fun for me. Uh, and then Rune Factory puts a spin on that where now you have combat and
Okay.
skills and stuff. And so like Rune Factory 4 just released just released, I think this was actually last year, a I don't think it was not a remaster, it was more like a definitive edition on the Switch. Um and I can let you borrow that sometime if you want. It's pretty fun. But like that, I don't know why, but that kind of gameplay, like those kind of life sims, I enjoy. Like you're farming to make money, but that's not the only thing you're doing, right? Like you really have to learn uh everyone's likes and dislikes to give them gifts and stuff, or do little mini quests, bring them something. And I've always had fun with those, which is why I'm kind of lumping in Stardew Valley with this because it is a spiritual successor of Harvest Moon. It's not made by anyone that worked on the original, uh, but it has that feeling, that life sim feeling, where like you're doing a whole bunch of stuff in this one town and getting to know everyone around you.
Now, see, I've never really been a fan of that franchise. I guess because I never really got into it.
Hmm.
I've never really played. I think you did convince me to buy. Was it Rune Factory 4? I think for the 3DS.
Might have been. Hmm.
I bought it because you talked so highly about it and you talked about it so much. I was like, well, it's got to be a good game, and I got it and I played it, and like I could just never really get into it. Like it was the one with the dragon, and then
Yeah, that's Rune
you
Factory
talk
4.
you talk to the dragon and you start your farm. And I mean, I probably put like 3 or 4 hours into it, and it just wasn't grabbing me. Maybe I
Hmm.
need to go back and try it again, or maybe get the one on the Switch and try that.
Because it's definitely like for those kind of games. Oh, hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Never mind, I'm good. Um, those kind of games. Hold on, I'm not good. Hold on, give me a
Oh,
second. It's like coming. It's going in waves. All right. Uh, those kind of games, like the beginning is the most boring because you have so little you can do. And that's one of the things. Like, as you were talking about, let's go back to Zelda, right? You get items, and all of a sudden, more stuff starts becoming available. You can go back to
mm-hmm,
older areas, and you have more stuff to do. That's a very similar thing to the Harvest Moon franchise. You
mm-hmm,
start out with the basics of the basics, and then slowly throughout the game, you start to upgrade your tools and stuff, and you can go to new areas or go to old areas and do different things in them.
mm-hmm.
Um, and if I'll have to see. it should be on the PSN if you want to play it. A really good Harvest Moon game is Harvest Moon Back to Nature, and that was for the PS1, and that should be on the PSN if you ever want to look at it. But it was one of those games where like you had a whole bunch of stuff you could do with like farming, raising animals, mining, stuff like that. But then you also had all of the lifestyle events. You had to get to know people. You had all the festivals that you could take part in, and it's more about just being a farmer, which is why like I got very angry in high school. I don't know if you remember this when Farmville was on Facebook or whatever, and people kept calling it the next Harvest Moon. I'm like, no, it's not, because Harvest Moon is not just about farming, and these kind of games, Rune Factory included, they're not just about farming. It's a life sim.
Hmm.
You do all of the stuff regarding to life, like not just farming, but getting to know people.
Right.
Um, which I don't know, maybe that's just because I was always really shy as a person, and I couldn't do that in real life. You know, walk up to somebody and just talk to them every day. But like once you get past that beginning point, the games open up. Like Stardew Valley is also very similar, um, in that in some ways the game doesn't start until after the first year, uh, because like so many as you go through, so many more events start taking place as you get to know the people. Like the events won't happen until you reach a certain level with them, and so you have to spend time, in the village and with the people to get these events to even happen. But I
Interesting.
I could go on about that kind of thing all day, but so we'll stop for there right now, and I'll let you do your honorable mentions, and then we'll switch over to some of our disappointing franchises.
So the two honorable mentions I have, I'll do one and then talk about it, and then do the second one and talk about it a little bit, and then we'll move on to your. Did you have honorable mentions?
I did not know.
Okay, so two of them, and I think one of them you'll agree with, Saints Row.
Ah, yeah, okay. Hmm.
Saints Row is a franchise that I thought was amazing. I think they did a very very good job with the first one. We'll get to my disappointment here in just a second, but not with Saints Row, but with its like-minded individual. So I liked the Saints Row kind of the feel, the different gangs, and the fact that your character didn't speak at all.
Hmm.
Kind of gave him this air of mystery. The customization in the game was pretty good. Then in Saints Row 2, they kind of upped the ante. It was a little, more stuff, more vehicles, more weapons,
Hmm.
like more customization. Then you get into Saints Row like 3. Saints Row 3 was like the peak, I think,
Right.
of the
Yeah.
Saints Row franchise. And then they kind of dipped down a little bit when they come out with Saints Row 4 and to be honest, I don't even know what Saints Row 4 was. It was just like a cluster of
Yeah.
craziness.
Yeah.
But
All. Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 were amazing. 4 was playable, but didn't have the same vibe. It was
It didn't.
almost like it was a completely different game.
Yeah, well, like, cause like one of the things about the Saints Row franchise, right, is that like, especially for 1, 2, and 3, like I'd always like I'd go hop on a motorcycle or a car and I'd just drive around the city. But in 4 and including Gat Out of Hell, which is like 4.5, um, you got those abilities so early on,
Hmm.
that you didn't like that you could fly and run super fast, that you didn't need to do any of the cars, and it kind of lost a little bit of what the franchise was about, right? Which was about that, living the excess as a gang member, right? Having the super nice cars and all of the
Hmm.
guns and
See, the
going.
thing,
Sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was gonna say I can't remember if it was in 2 or 3 or it could have been both of them. But one of the things that I really really loved was the car customization, like the fact that you could choose different rims, choose
Hmm.
different tires, choose different rim widths, choose different colors. Like I thought that was really cool, and you could store them in your garage. But another thing that I really really liked about the franchise, getting away from the cars, is I think it was in the second one and possibly in the third one, you could do. missions a little. Look, the side quest mini missions to
Right.
unlock perks, like being able to max out your respect and put into perks and doing like the little mini side quests to get like unlimited ammo in this or
Yeah.
unlimited ammo in that. I thought those were really cool little features
Mhm.
of the game. My second honorable mention, just because I loved them, but they don't really have replayability for me, and that was the Bioshock games.
Mm.
I really kind of liked the story behind the Bioshock games. This utopian society where everything's going to be better, and of course, with anything like that, you're gonna have crazy people. You're gonna have fanatics, and the fact, what happened. I don't want to ruin it for anybody that's not played it. But I personally enjoyed the storyline of those games. Think
Well,
it went
it's,
a little
yeah.
weird when it got to Infinite.
Yeah, well, that's why I considered that franchise, but ultimately decided against putting it, in my good ones because I really love the first BioShock. I'm
Uh,
kind of on Infinite. So
I liked the second one a lot too because like I had a lot of fun with the second one, but like I've tried like 4 or 5 times now to play through Infinite. And I just can't get through it.
it's not as good as the first one. Like the first one, I've played through 3 or 4 times. I've only played Infinite once.
But
Uh,
if you think about it like this, that kind of holds true for me is because I love water, like and being
mhm.
underwater, and the first two are underwater, and the third one
Well,
is not.
I'll say Infinite Infinite had potential, but
Hmm.
um, I think they got. It's one of those things where you get caught up in story trumps gameplay.
They should have stayed underwater.
Because I mean, Shadow and I are a big fan of uh this movie called Gamers Darkness Rising,
Story
and
Trump rules.
yeah, and that's one of the things that that's why I'm not necessarily a big fan of Infinite is that story trumps rules. Like things that shouldn't be possible based on the rules that you've said are now possible because of story reasons.
Right, right.
And so that's why Infinite just kind of I don't know. Like it didn't hit me that same way that the first BioShock did. Like the first BioShock you played it and you had to keep playing it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um
Um, with going off of Saints Row, this is the first disappointment, and I kind of want to tie these two together. I love the Saints Row franchise,
mhm,
especially one, two, and three. But one of the franchises that I played a lot as a kid, but I'm disappointed in the long term, is Grand Theft Auto.
mm,
Because Saints Row and Grand Theft Auto are kind of the same base. You're in a city. They're kind of like you're the bad guy. You play as like the the quote unquote villain, even though there's not really an overwhelming story.
mhm,
Although there was a little more story in Saints Row than Grand Theft Auto, but like literally, you're just a dude, and like I really liked Vice City. I
mhm.
played Vice City so much as a kid. So much. I can't even tell you how much Vice City. It's the only Grand Theft Auto besides Liberty City Stories, or Liberty City that I completely 100%. I completely 100% beat Vice City, or as much as you can, like
Mhm.
because there are some things that just continue on forever. But in Liberty City, I beat it too. But it's like every single game is like the same game.
Yeah.
Like after like even the story is not that much different. And they just keep going. You know what I mean? And
Cuz
at this point, like that's one of the reasons why I put it under the disappointments is while I've played it a lot and I've played GTA 5 and I played GTA 5 online, at the end of the day, it's not fun anymore because it. You still there?
Oh yeah, sorry, you cut out there for a second to me. You were
Like
saying
like
why it wasn't fun.
like to me it's not fun anymore because of the fact that it just feels like they want your money.
Well, yeah, cuz I mean so when you look at it right, like Grand Theft Auto 5 came out how many years ago?
A long time ago.
And like I mean, you can say it's a similar thing with like Skyrim, right? Skyrim came out in 2011, and like
Hmm.
we've been waiting for Elder Scrolls 6, but when it came to you know the Grand Theft Auto series, like I've seen charts where it's like how many years you have between each game,
Hmm.
and then you have 5, and they got so stuck doing Grand Theft Auto Online, I think for the past several years, where you can spend real money to get stuff in game, that
Hmm.
that's all that's the focus anymore.
Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to think these companies are trying to make money, and they're raking in billions of dollars a year
Hmm.
off the online. Why would they make another game?
Right.
Like, why make another game whenever their game is already making a money and it's on a platform that they built years ago?
Well, it's funny because like for I've not played much of the Grand Theft Auto series because it never really appealed to me. Like I really liked Saints Row, but Grand Theft Auto never appealed to me for some reason. But the one game I did play in that franchise was San Andreas,
Hmm.
and I used to play that game for the cheat codes because it was just so funny too. Because you had a
Oh
cheat
yeah.
code where you could make your car turn into like an airplane. Essentially, like it had airplane mechanics, even though it was a car. And so I used to just do that for several hours.
That's the cool things about San Andreas that I don't know why they didn't continue it. Like in San Andreas, like you could run and level up your stamina.
Right.
You could go to the gym or go to the park and work out and get your strength up.
Hmm.
Why take that away? Like I thought that was a super because it made it feel like more like a life simulator
Well,
than an
right,
actual just
and
run and gun.
that's because as it went on, for Saints Row 4 in particular, and even Saints Row 5, it was about the story, right? You had characters that you wanted to keep the same way that they were. Like in Saints Row 5, you've got Michael, right? Michael doesn't really improve as a person or in any way as the game goes on. He doesn't get more fit. Like he can go to yoga classes, but it doesn't do anything.
GTA is. I mean, GTA is like it's just it's not it's really not like it's a disappointing franchise because it started off, it had great roots, they just didn't go nowhere with it because they had already, it was like, oh, this is the best we can do, let's just keep making the same thing.
Hmm.
um to be honest, I could go straight into the second one off of this one because I feel like it's the exact same problem, and that's the Fallout franchise.
Okay.
I loved Fallout 3.
Yeah.
Love Fallout 3. I played Fallout 3 so much. I played it. I got all the DLC. I have the hardcover Fallout 3 collector's edition book to like go through and like look at all the different places you can go to get this weapon, go to get
Hmm.
that weapon, do all the stories and stuff like that. I loved Fallout 3, and when Fallout 4 was announced, or Fallout New Vegas, whichever one came next, I was like, oh my, they're coming out with a new one. They're coming out with a new one. I gotta get it and I gotta play it and I got it, and it's like it's the same game,
Yeah.
and I was just so disappointed. Or maybe I think New Vegas came out and then finally Fallout 4
Yeah.
came out.
Like New Vegas had the same, like it used the same engine. It just had a
Hmm.
different storyline.
Even Fallout 4 when it came out, I still haven't beat Fallout 4 because I just every time I play it, I'm like, it's the same game.
Hmm.
Like my thing is like the thing that keeps franchises alive, right? That's one of the reasons why, like, even though the Elder Scrolls didn't make my list, I know it made your list.
Hmm.
So like, but one of the reasons why Skyrim, or not Skyrim particularly, but the Elder Scrolls, is because even though they were similar, they changed regions.
Hmm.
I mean, there was something different about it. It wasn't, because the vegetation is different. But in this post-apocalyptic world of Fallout, everything looks the same.
Right.
Wasteland.
And I mean, since you mentioned it, I'll go ahead and say, yeah, one of the disappointments on my list is actually Elder Scrolls, and that's not to say that they're bad games. It's that the franchise as a whole disappoints me.
Hmm.
And that's because I've been playing since Morrowind, and every time, and you can see this if you go and you watch their stuff even right now, every time when they're making the new Elder Scrolls, they make so many promises, and it
Hmm.
it, it hypes it up so much, and then the game isn't even 10% of what they said it was going to be.
Right.
I
Well,
rem-
you know, real quick off that comment,
mhm,
like one of the reasons I think that might be, uh, it might be one of the reasons why they haven't said anything
mhm,
about six. They gave us one little teaser like 2 years ago,
yeah,
right? Was it 2 years ago that they gave us that little teaser? That's it. They
mhm,
haven't said another word. So as far as we know, that may be of all they've made. They may not have made nothing yet.
mhm.
You know?
Because when the Oblivion demo came out, it was so interesting. Like that was when it was like, okay, now you can interact with the environment and use it to kill enemies. And so they had shown at that time where you push a log down a hill and it kills a goblin, which they somewhat implemented in the final game. Instead of it being like you push a log, there's a log trap.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it's like, no, you just pushed a straight up log down. And then there was a thing where you're in the middle of a conversation with this one woman in the demo, and the dog is barking in the background, and she gets mad, and she cuts off the conversation to launch a fireball at the dog to make it shut up.
Oh, they
And
probably got PETA probably ripped them a new one for that one.
I don't know, but like they had so many promises about like the AI and what was going to be possible, and then the game came out and it's like, well, it's not that it's not fun, it's just like, dude, this could have been so much more. And then when they started hyping up Skyrim before it came out, and then it came out, and there's so many little areas of Skyrim that disappoint me. Like, I am very disappointed in the lockpicking system. I am very disappointed in the persuasion system. I mean, like, you can't, like, so in in Morrowind and even in Oblivion, you had to get someone to like you, right, in order to talk about certain topics. Which, like, because it makes sense. Like, you're asking someone about something that's personal to them, they're not just going to tell it to you if you're a stranger.
Right.
And then Skyrim got rid of that completely. And there were so many little things that they just decided to get rid of in Skyrim. And I felt that what they added did not um, equal what they took out.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Especially because in Skyrim, they took out attributes. They took out the strength, the agility, and all of that, and they just made
Mm-hmm.
it health, and fatigue and magicka, which made me kind of mad. But
Yeah.
so like Elder Scrolls, in my opinion, is a disappointing franchise because they can't keep promises, and then they, I don't know, I guess they change core gameplay aspects without balancing the game.
The thing about the Elder Scrolls, see, I didn't play much Morrowind. I played a very little bit. I could never get past the very beginning,
Hmm.
because while I was trying to equip the dagger that you get at the very beginning, I thought you needed to drag and drop it on your hand, and so I dropped it, and I believe it disappeared forever. And so I was weaponless, trying to find out where to go,
Hmm.
and I kept dying, and I eventually gave up. But like Oblivion, like I played a lot of Oblivion, and like I said, Oblivion didn't make either one of my lists because I'm kind of in the middle. I like the franchise, but I don't love it,
Hmm.
but I don't hate it. And the thing about it is like you get used to it. Like Oblivion took a long time to learn, right?
Yeah.
Like it took me like two or three different characters to learn. Okay, I need to level up the. I don't need to pick the attributes I love. I need to pick the attributes that I don't like as my mains,
Right.
and then do my other ones and level them up. Go, get this at this level, get that at this level. Kind of like
Min max. Yeah, I got what you
you
mean.
gotta play the system, right?
Hmm.
And then like you spend all that time learning the system, and then you finally get to Skyrim, and Skyrim comes out and it's a completely different system, and you're like, I've got to relearn everything. This is different. Okay, now I got to play this way, then I got to play this way. And to be
Hmm.
honest, in Skyrim particularly, like sneaking and like bows and sneaking, to be honest, in my opinion, I think is broken.
Hmm.
Like like you can play the entire game as a sneaky archer, and like literally depending on what your archery skill is and what kind of arrows and bow you have, you can literally take out like everything in the entire game
Hmm.
without ever even getting into combat.
Yeah.
Like even if you do get into combat, you can just bow them a couple of times, or whip out some fireballs.
Hmm.
Well, actually, you got like a flamethrower in your arm.
Yeah. Oh no, hold on. I'm gonna sneeze.
Sure.
Sorry about that. I had turned off my mic to sneeze. Oh,
Oh, okay.
I didn't want that big
Uh,
percussion to come through.
all right. Any other? Do you want to go ahead and go on to your second or first or
Yeah, yeah.
disappointment?
I'll go on to my second. My second, and again, these are not necessarily bad games, but
Mm-hmm.
the franchise as a whole is disappointing
They're
to me.
they're personal disappointments.
Right. The Final Fantasy franchise. You know,
See, I never could get into it. I,
I
I never could. In fact, the only Final Fantasy game that I liked apparently is the one everybody else hates,
what
and
13?
that was no, it was Final Fantasy VII, the Dirage of Cerberus.
Oh, oh, I haven't played that
It
one.
was the only one I played. That was the only one I played and liked, and apparently, according to everybody that I've ever asked about it, they're like, "That's the worst one."
Well, it's just a shooter, but like so the Final Fantasy franchise, like there's games in it I like. Like I really like the first Final Fantasy. It's one of those simplistic kind of games that really appeals to me. I like Final Fantasy 10 and 9 a lot, but then
Mm-hmm.
like after that, every single game has been a disappointment to me. Like when 11 came out, it was a disappointment because one, it was a mass multiplayer, which I don't do. So that
Mm-hmm.
was disappointing. And then 12 came out, and it had some fun things, but it ultimately wasn't great. And then 13 disappointed me heavily with its everything. And then 15 disappointed me. So it's like ever since 10, they've just each game keeps disappointing me more and more and more. And to me, the franchise is on a downhill.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's personal. That's my opinion. Some people may
Right.
really love the more recent games, but to me, they lost that spirit of what made it a Final Fantasy game,
Right.
which I'm actually going to use to transition into my last one, which is Assassin's Creed. I really liked the very first Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
It is repetitive when you go back to try to play now, but at the time it was something new, it was something fresh. And then 2 came out and it was better. It was really good. And then they came out with 2.4 and 2.6 and 2.7, you know. And when they finally started again with the main series, 3 and 4 are heavily disappointing to me. And then they started doing games that don't even fit the series, right? You've got Odyssey, you've got Origins, which to me aren't even Assassin's Creed games. They're in the franchise, but like we were saying before, gameplay is entirely different, and everything
Mm-hmm.
that they had set up beforehand is no longer obeyed, kind of.
Right. Well,
Especially,
because it was like this secret society. In the first couple of games, you're like this ultra super secret society, and you
mhm.
dress a certain way, you do a certain thing, like, and then you go back, to ancient times, and like me personally, out of all of the games, all of the Assassin's Creed games, the only one I even spent a moderate of time playing was Odyssey, and
Mm.
that's only because I like Greek, like I like Greek
Right, and
stuff.
Odyssey was the one that like threw the rest of the series away. Like that was the one where okay, you can be this character or this character, and you can make choices,
Yeah.
which goes against the basis of that franchise as a whole, because the whole franchise is you are reliving your ancestors' memories.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't make a choice; it's already happened.
Right. Right. I just like it as a standalone, like a
Hmm.
standalone game. Like if let's just say that Assassin's Creed did not exist and Assassin's Creed Odyssey came out, it would be a great game.
Right, and that's the problem. The problem is that it's a franchise, but it's
Right.
not really a part of it.
It's not. And the thing about it is I never really liked the Assassin's Creed games.
Hmm.
Oh, I just thought of another one that I could add to the amazing. I'm gonna add it in right after we get done with the disappointments.
Okay.
You'll agree. I think you'll agree with the amazingness of it. But I'll let you continue.
All right, but yeah, like that series is just a disappointment overall. I liked two, but if I go back and play one
Mhm.
now one isn't good anymore. Like it was good at the time because it was fresh,
Right.
and two still kind of holds up. But like if I go and play any of the Assassin's Creed games other than two, I won't have fun because for reasons that kind of are pervasive through the series. Like especially in three, Ubisoft really starts to fall in love with themselves, and when they put themselves in the actual game as a gaming company, they I just kind of was like, what are you doing? And
Hmm.
so like Assassin's Creed, like they keep coming out with new ones. Like yes, I like Egyptian mythology, I like Greek mythology, I like Norse mythology, I like all of those, but I don't
Hmm.
want to play those games because I just know that as much as I like those concepts, they are not going to deliver.
Yeah.
And then, what was your last disappointment?
So I have two more disappointments. I was just gonna say, I'll probably just leave this one off because it's not really a disappointment. It's just I don't like it.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna leave that one off. But one of the things, and this one right here is kind of it borders on both. So I think it's amazing for some aspects, but then other aspects it's disappointment. Um, and that's the whole Call of Duty franchise.
Mm.
Both Treyarch's Call of Duty games and Infinity Ward. So I know you're not as big into Call of Duty as I have been for years. I started with Modern Warfare 2,
Hmm.
and I've played Call of Duty. I've played pretty much every Call of Duty, minus a few. Whenever I wasn't in the gaming scene, I've taken some breaks from the gaming scene. I missed out on a couple of different games. But like I've played Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2, and I've played both campaigns and multiplayer. And I have to say that like out of all of the Call of Duty franchise, I think personally that Call of Duty Zombies is like the best part of the franchise.
Hmm.
When they introduced zombies, and that's a Treyarch thing. I don't think that Infinity Ward has ever done zombies, or no, I think they did in that. I think they didn't do a very good job with it. But when Black Ops 2 came out, or Black Ops 1, I know Black Ops 2 zombies was amazing. I think Black Ops 1 had zombies. But when Black Ops 2 came out and I played the zombies in Black Ops 2 and I played the multiplayer in Black Ops 2, I just like that was the best part of my 18, 19-year old range. Like for a full year and a half, like I was just Black Ops 2 was the only game I played.
Hmm.
Um, but I love the franchise because I have fond memories of it, but I also am very disappointed in like the direction that they're going. I really liked when they come out with the first BR, Call of Duty BR.
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun with it, and or not the first Call of Duty BR, the Warzone, the Call of Duty Warzone, because
Okay.
I think Call of Duty 4 or Black Ops 4 had a kind of a BR set up, and I didn't like that one. But like my thing is like it's a love hate relationship, right? I want to love Call of Duty because I like Call of Duty, but I don't like it because I don't like where it's going. Plus, it just like with Grand Theft Auto, they're just in a money grab.
It's that kind of the way you just summed that up is the exact same way I feel about Final Fantasy because I had mentioned that earlier that it's on my disappointment list. That's exactly how I feel about it. I have
Hmm.
games in there I love. I'm just very disappointed with the direction.
Like a franchise as a whole, I'm disappointed, but there are
Hmm.
some very awesome, amazing game like modes and game play in there. And then the last one I want to mention before we wrap this up because we're approaching an hour and 15 minutes. This one would go on the amazing list, and I this is the only game that I loved both of them so much that I wish that they made a third one, or wish that they would make a third one, but I don't believe the company even exists anymore. And that's Prototype.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I loved the Prototype 1 and 2. I loved them. I love everything about. I can't think of one single thing in either game that I didn't like.
Mhm.
I love the fact that you were super powered. I love the fact that it was kind of like a virus type of thing. You were kind of like the anti-hero type of, character. I loved in the second. Could you do it in the first one? I know in the second one you could like morph into other people.
Yeah,
Could
you
you
could do
do
that in
that?
the first one.
But it was only one person, right?
No, no, no. Well, okay, so like I've only played the first one, but in the first one, you would copy a random citizen
Uh
and
huh.
then transform into them. And then
I just.
if you did something like that, used like your abilities, and
Uh huh.
then uh, and then transformed into a different person, they would chase the person you were disguised as.
Yeah. See, that was one of the coolest things that I loved about that game is like literally you could technically take out an entire military base in that game, especially in the second one because I played the second one way more than I played the first one
Hmm.
because in the second one there was a bunch of different abilities and you could like level up different abilities and do stuff and like it was just a lot of fun. But I remember like there was a like you could take out entire military bases because you could like sneak into the you could like take over one person, then take over another person, then sneak into the base, and then just take over one person at a time until there was no one left.
Mm.
Like you could like sneak up behind the guy and like absorb him,
Oh, okay.
and then
Hmm.
you would become him, and then you would sneak up to the next person, and as long as nobody was looking you could take him and absorb him too,
Yeah.
and then you could go to the next one. It was just so much fun, being able to run up buildings, jump, glide,
Hmm.
like do all that stuff. But I don't believe that the company exists anymore.
Mm.
They were either conglomerated into somebody else or they just ceased to exist. I just know that whoever has the licensing rights for that, if they could make another game, it would be as long as they don't,
Yeah.
fuck it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean those are hitting those are hitting all the major ones that I love and hate. And if you want to put a love-hate relationship on another franchise that we've talked about before in this series, that'd probably be Pokemon.
Mm.
Like I love Pokemon. I love playing the games, but there's ones in there that I love and there's ones in there that I hate because they kind of took a different direction.
Hmm.
You've got the whole multiverse type theory going on now with Pokemon and like why some games have mega evolutions and other ones have like Gigantamax and
Right.
like what Dynamaxing, in this region and Megas in that and this over here and this and like to me it's a little confusing at this point. But there are games in there that I love, like I like Pokemon Crystal was probably my first video game that I ever owned.
Hmm.
Love that game. I loved Ruby and Sapphire.
Hmm.
you know like that there are games in there that I love. I wanted to love Sword and Shield. I wanted to so bad. I've spent a lot of time playing them, but I don't love them. I love the clothing options,
Hmm.
but I don't really love the gameplay. It's not new, it's not invigorating. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really hoping that the new Pokemon game coming out next year, I don't know if you've seen
Oh,
it, right?
Legends?
The
Are you
the
talking about
open
Legends?
world,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
kind of open world type Switch game.
Yeah. I'm kind of hyped
I'm
for that one.
hoping I'm hoping that kind of embodies the whole Pokemon experience
Yeah.
a little more. Um, but there's kind of in summary, like there's a ton of franchises out there, and there are good franchises and there are bad franchises. There are franchises that really care about gameplay. They really care about the people that are playing their games. And then there's others that are corporations that are just trying to make money,
Hmm.
you know. And while a lot of people say that Nintendo is the worst out of the three big names, a lot of people dog Nintendo
Mhm.
because, for multiple reasons. They're not as up to date, right, as
Mhm.
like PlayStation and Xbox. They don't have the best graphics in the world. Their console is a little bit dated, but at the same time, like Nintendo has done a lot of amazing things.
Well, one thing to say about Nintendo is they are never afraid to do something new.
No, they're not. They're not afraid to do something new. And the thing about it is all of their games, for the most part, every Nintendo game that I can think of that has come out has been pretty polished.
Mhm.
Like they don't just release a game. Oh, let's just release this.
Could you imagine if you had a Zelda game that had bugs like
Like
Skyrim?
Skyrim.
Yeah, put a bucket over someone's head and all of a sudden the puzzle's done.
Like the thing about it is okay. So Breath of the Wild has quite a few glitches and like little like nuances, right?
Uh-huh.
Breath of the Wild came out on the Wii, right?
The Wii U.
Or the Wii U.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild's land area is almost as big as Skyrim's,
Mhm.
or bigger. It's like it's huge,
Yeah.
right? You don't have to load. You can go from one side of the map to the other and never hit a loading screen.
Yeah. And each area actually looks exceedingly different.
You know, you can be running along and you good, you good, you good, you freezing.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you cross over it. I mean, it doesn't. It's not instantaneous. You kind of go into a gradual. It gets colder, 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 colder,
Right.
and then you're freezing. But the thing about it is like Skyrim doesn't have that. You can
Mm-mm.
be naked running up mountains. Like you can run up to High Hrothgar or whatever,
Yeah.
just like full on, just loincloth in it. Just you're just good. I really like that they added in like the hot and cold system.
Yeah.
Like while
Well,
there are glitches in Breath of the Wild,
yeah.
my thing is like Nintendo games, right? There are a ton of games on the Switch that are ports,
Mhm.
right? Skyrim is on the Switch now.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter World is on the Switch. Like there's a bunch of different games on the Switch, but they're not Nintendo games. They're
Right.
just games that Nintendo has like brought over to the Switch. And I'm talking like real Nintendo games like Zelda, Mario, Pokemon.
Mhm.
They're all pretty polished. They don't release an unfinished product. And
Right.
even when they do release it, it doesn't need a ton of patches.
Mhm.
Like we don't need no 50 gig day one patch
Oh yeah.
to this already 40 gigabyte game, you know. That's the thing about and I think that's another thing with Nintendo, right? Nintendo doesn't ever set a date
Yeah.
until they have a finished product.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the things that really ruined like CD Projekt Red, right? They
Uh
had
huh.
a great idea, they hyped it up, they gave too much information, and then they released an unfinished product. You
Right.
know, just like you were talking about with Oblivion and Skyrim, they gave you all this information, they hyped it up, and then when it came out, it was a disappointment. It was a
Mhm.
letdown.
Right.
You know, Nintendo doesn't say nothing. Like until they have a really good, solid, okay, this is how this is gonna work.
Mhm.
And now I have to admit, Nintendo has gotten a little bad about it, and within the last year or two, kind of releasing little teasers.
Yeah.
Because they didn't used to do that. Um, they are releasing little teasers, but they're not like major teasers. They're not
Right.
like a major, thing.
Well, and really that stems from a time that they were burned. So like Nintendo at one point had released a video of what would be Wind Waker. That was the project they were working on,
Hmm.
and it was a hyper realistic graphics, and it was dark, and like you had this really epic sword fight, and so people got really hyped for that because it was supposed to be like taking Ocarina of Time and pushing it up a step further.
Hmm.
But then they're like, you know what? This doesn't really work for what we're doing. So they did Wind Waker in the way they did, and so when Wind Waker came out, people hated it.
Yeah.
because it wasn't what the teaser had promised.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, Wind Waker's still a great game, but it just wasn't what people were expecting.
Right.
And so I think it was like pretty much after that, like, okay, we're just gonna keep quiet until we actually have it like at least ready to release demos.
Right. Yeah. In my personal opinion, Nintendo has always been like on the kind of the cutting edge of innovation.
Mhm.
Not necessarily technology, but innovation. Like
Mhm.
when the Wii came out and like the Wiimotes and the
Right.
wireless aspect, being able to point at the screen and move the cursor. I never had a Wii, but I wanted one, man. Like
Mhm.
when the Wii came out, if I could have if I could have gotten one, I would have. But it was just never in the cards, playing. I remember I come over to your house one time and we played pool
Yeah.
on the Wii. We just played pool for and bowling for like an entire night. Like
Yeah.
stayed up 24 hours just playing pool and bowling. Like it was a lot of fun. Nintendo is always, like who would have thought, like I remember do you remember like when we were in high school, you remember we were looking at those like handheld like gaming tablets that could play like Elder Scrolls, but they were like these big bulking monstrosities that basically ran Windows and you could kind of barely run Oblivion on it.
Mm-mm, I don't remember that at all.
Oh, I remember being in high school thinking, it'd be so cool if you could like carry around a portable, kind of handheld like a Game Boy, but like it be more.
Right.
And like the Switch is actually like if you think about the Switch in terms of like consoles, the Switch is actually crazy overpowered for the size of it.
Mhm.
Is it on par with a PS4 or Xbox, Xbox One? No, no, it's
But I
not.
mean,
But
even then, like, take a
not.
look at the
It's about the
size
same.
difference.
I know it's like the same size as my cell phone.
Mhm.
You know, like it's not huge. It's small. It's compact. You can use it on you can use it on the screen. You can use it as a handheld. You can take it with you. Every game that you can play on the big screen, you can play in handheld mode.
Mhm.
You know, I just think to me personally, like while Xbox and PlayStation and even PC is like hands down graphics, you know, supreme, right?
Mhm.
I think the Switch is like an it's like the unsung hero of consoles,
Mhm.
especially for like you're more like not your standard like, oh yeah man, I only play Call of Duty. Like, yeah, bro, let's hop into Warzone.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with those people, if that's what they love, if that's what they enjoy, go for it. But like, I've always been like a tech, and like I like tech,
Yeah.
and I see tons of memes on Reddit, like, oh, PlayStation, they made a good thing and they just stuck with it, because the controller, they never
Right.
really changed the controller very much, and even when they came out with the PS5 controller, it wasn't a drastic change, it was
Right.
just a little bit of change. Xbox has changed theirs quite a bit, and they always poke fun at Nintendo because Nintendo's got all kinds of different crazy
Yeah. A
stuff
new
on there.
controller for every system.
You know, I mean, if your controllers don't work on the old system or if your old controllers don't work on the new system anyway, then why not change them?
Mhm.
You know, I think the Joy Cons are awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
like,
don't I don't
eh,
prefer using them for like Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. I prefer using like the Switch Pro controller
right. Mhm.
for those. But like if I'm on the go and stuff like that, those Joy Cons are all right.
Mhm.
And the fact that you can use them like you can get the Switch boxing game, you can hold one in each hand and it's actually like your fist.
Yeah.
You can get you can get the ring fitness where you put one in your pocket and one on the ring, and it tells whether you're walking or whatever. Like I think that technology is really cool. They could potentially Nintendo could capture the VR market.
That would be so like, I mean, like, if we could have I know we've been talking about Zelda, but like a VR Zelda would be amazing.
Well, like you think about it like this, okay? You could technically already have a VR
Mm-hmm.
Zelda game because like VR is not that hard to implement, right? You have the two separate images. You have the headset that basically splits your vision, and you have two separate images that makes it feel like you're in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they've already got that set up. The Switch is already a handheld console. You clip it into the thing, they split the image into two separate, like 720p
Mm-hmm.
images on the screen. You have the Joy Cons in each hand, or one in your hand, one on your. And you can connect multiple sets of Joy Cons to the same Switch. So you just need two sets of Joy Cons, one for each leg, one for each arm, and you've got VR,
Mm-hmm.
portable
Yeah.
VR, right there.
Yeah. Go
Like,
for the
and
like Nintendo Labo sort of thing, like the construct a little headset and
hmm
just. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless. And with them coming out with a Switch Pro that's supposed to be powerful enough for 4K gaming,
Mm-hmm.
but still in a handheld.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why they couldn't. I mean, the technology, like their technology is possible. I mean, PlayStation VR is cool, but like it's not like grand. And I'm not saying that Switch or Nintendo will do that, but it's interesting to think that they could.
Right.
You know, like you charge this thing up, put it in your little headset, put your Joy Cons on, and I mean, you're good. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got it all. You've got legs, you've got arms, no cords. It's all wireless.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pull it out every once in a while to charge the thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, the possibilities in tech are endless, and I think that Nintendo is I just think Nintendo's great. I've been hung up on PC for so long, but I think it's about time I get back into the kind of Nintendo thing. I've been playing Breath of the Wild. I want to continue playing Breath of the Wild, and I want to play Skyward Sword when it comes out on the
I
on
am
the
looking
Switch.
forward to that. Yeah.
Like and there's other games on the Switch, but I gotta be patient, because Nintendo doesn't come out with a game every year. I
Right.
mean, they do, but they don't. Like they don't come out with a game I want to play every year.
Right.
You know, um, Animal Crossing that come out a couple years ago, and I didn't think I would like it, but I loved it. I spent a ton of time playing Animal
Mm-hmm.
Crossing, the one for the Switch.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the same as some of the older Animal Crossing games,
Super different.
um, but I had a blast with it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of learning, talking to the people, and making different flowers, breeding different flowers.
Right. Yeah.
Getting bells, buying turnips, decorating my house. Like it was a lot of fun. I spent a lot of time playing that game. But like I said, this podcast was supposed to be about franchises, but as always, with the culmination of randomness, we get on tangents. We
Mm-hmm.
go off and talk about whatever.
Entire
Was
companies.
I know, right? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
No, that was
Any
it for
other
me. Yeah.
franchise stuff or any other gaming industry type of deals?
Nope, that was it for me.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this podcast up for today. Um, we will be streaming again. The next podcast will be next Monday, probably either next Monday or Tuesday, because I'll work next Sunday.
Okay.
So we'll have to get together and we'll figure out when we're gonna do that. Um, and yeah, that's all I have. So I guess that's all for today.
Yeah. Thanks for coming. Join us again next time. Bye bye.